Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. Today, you are tuned into the most versatile and valuable lens I own. Not me, this guy. So, Sony Artisan of Imagery, Chris Orwig, joining us once again. A huge thank you to Sony for hosting today's event. Chris, I don't know how long it's going to take you to spill the beans. I left the lens out of the title. I wanted
Yeah,
people
yeah,
to think
yeah, yeah.
about this. I wanted them to think
Yes.
about what they think of when they think versatile and
Yes.
valuable. I want them to think about what is versatile and valuable to them. So good to have you back, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a bit. It's so good. I think one of my favorite things is just getting to hang out with you. So I love that, and everyone tuning in, thank you. And let me jump into my slides
Do
just
it.
to get it rolling, and then we'll
Do it.
talk as we go. But I think it's kind of a fun way just to kick it off. And the idea behind this one is I was thinking about lenses and all this stuff, and I realized that my real moneymaker, the one I use the most frequently, the one that has helped me most in my career, all these things, is this lens. And I have a ton of gear, like a lot of photographers. Behind me, you can't really see it, but I have this whole like drawer system full of lenses. So more than all this you see on the screen, but this one I'm singling out today. And this is the particular lens that I use. It's actually the GM2. I don't have the 2 on there, but if you aren't a Sony shooter, it doesn't matter. This talk isn't about Sony. This talk is about this focal length and why this focal length can be so helpful to us as photographers. And for me, it's helpful because I can photograph an astronaut, in this case, in the replica of the International Space Station in Germany, where he's doing some training, or a band doing some album art. Photography, which Derek, you and I were just talking about. We'll have to loop back to that. But I can photograph them out at a cool location, or then the next day I can photograph their show, and I'm using the same exact lens. And that's what I mean by versatile, is that it can go so many different places and do so many different things. In this case, a yoga teacher in the town where I live, in this cool old building, or way up in the mountains in Oregon. And I was actually just photographing the reflection in these 2 people and their little dog. I don't know if you can see their dog in the red canoe, but started to paddle by, asked if I could take a photo, and they said, of course. But so outdoor adventure stuff. In this case, this is a friend's painting. And so when I'm doing art reproduction just for fun for a friend, this is the lens that I'm going to use. This is one of the masterminds behind the Sony cameras. This guy is like full amazing person at Sony, and to get a cool portrait of him, because I do shoot Sony and these cameras mean so much to me. So a portrait in this case, up in the mountains in Utah. Or sometimes when I'm on a shoot at a beautiful location, I just like to photograph things like clouds, in this case, some mountains, but a lot of clouds, and just capture the feeling of a place. Or other times I'm hired, in this case, by the grandma in the middle to photograph her and all of her family over holidays, and to try to fit everyone into the frame. Or a famous baseball player up close, or in this case, he's in his van. In this case, he's standing outside of his van. So this is the versatility, right? There's like, I can do all my up close stuff, and then I can also do my environmental portrait work as well as so many other kinds of things, whether it's commercial photography in Costa Rica. This is celebrity. And in this case, the up close portrait on the left, celebrity with product, and then celebrity with her fans. And so it's kind of crazy to me, because I was digging through all my gear and I was like, this is crazy to me that I can just have one lens on my camera and literally, 1 minute do that photo on the left, a couple minutes later that one, and then she went outside, and a couple minutes later this one. So the fact that we can do those things is so huge. Or in another case, and I've shared this photo before, but a wedding in Yosemite, this was at sunrise. So that photo, this was later after the ceremony with her parents. They used this for their Christmas card, kind of just a clean, natural, nice photo. It's not like, this to me is more like art. This is more like, this is getting the job done. And then later at sunset up at Taft Point, there they are out on the point from a distance with this lens. There they are up a little bit closer, and then still closer still. So the fact that it allows us to do these different things, and I'll talk a little bit about why. This isn't just going to be like showing images. This is going to be deconstructing this a little bit. But I wanted to start with images to start to give you some ideas behind this statement that I'm throwing out there, which is a lens that is literally the most versatile, the most valuable one. It is the one that kind of has gotten me the furthest in my career in a certain way. So a little bit about me, then I'll pause. Derek and I will talk, then we'll jump back to slides. But I love photography. I love that it gets you places. And these are just some goofy photos of myself out in the sand dunes from a project I was working on, or up in the mountains, in the ocean, in the studio, and then having fun and enjoying and appreciating life. And then a photo a friend captured of our family and our golden retriever. As a side note, we currently have 12 dogs in our house. 2 of them are adults and 10 of them are puppies. We have 10 golden retriever puppies right now. But that's another story. I have my most recent book is Authentic Portraits. So I do a lot of portraiture. I have courses at this URL. This particular one's on sale right now for $15. It's on posing. So if you're kind of liking some of the style you're seeing, that could be a resource for you. And then of course, my website, you can see some of the work that I do. And just looking at this page, now that you know a little bit about this focal length, you're seeing a lot of the photos on this. I'm going to say way more than half, probably 70%, were captured with that focal length lens, which I didn't totally realize until I dug into this talk. So let me pause right there. Let me stop sharing the screen, and let's talk a little bit, Derek. What is coming up for you as I do this really quick, jam session with the 24 to 70? What questions, what thoughts, what reflections?
If not the 24 to 70,
okay,
what's the other go-to?
Okay, so that's a good question. I have some of my cameras here. So, and just to give a sense on, because I think it's always interesting to see in real life, not just the pictures, but I opened my camera drawer and I was like, what are on my cameras? And they tend to be on my cameras a lot. So this one right here is the 24 to 70. And then this one is the 85. And so you can, those are really, if I only have 2 lenses and a shoot, these are the 2. And you can kind of see their form factor, similar, obviously different, but not huge. And then maybe to compare that to the other one, which for video a lot, I'll shoot with the Sony A1 and the 35. And so that's a much smaller, compact lens. And these are all the G Master lenses. Those are what I tend to use. So yeah, so if not the 24 to 70, and I'll talk about this in another presentation, the 85. The 85 is really, really magic. So I'd say that's the most magical lens. Mm-hmm. But I would say the 24 to 70 is really the one, I'll show some photos later, that just has such versatility. So like there's a lot of photos in that set that I just showed I couldn't create with the 85 because I just couldn't back up enough, or the working distance would be a little too awkward. And so the fact that it allows for this wide, not too wide, but also up close, but not too up close. It's a very natural look. Some people call it kind of a workhorse lens. I don't like that phrase. Or you'll see it listed as a standard zoom lens. I don't like that either, because it makes it seem like this is standard. For me, it's it's magic. Yeah. And I think what shifted for me, I had a friend this was years ago, who assisted for Annie Leibovitz. This is probably 10 or 15 years ago. And she was shooting at the time, I don't know what she shoots now, but then with a 24 to 70 a lot. And I started to say like, oh, because I kind of overlooked that lens. I didn't want standard. I wanted primes. At the time I was like 35 prime, 50 prime, 85 prime, give me primes and I'm happy. Then I started experimenting with this. And then when the Sony came out with their version 1, which amazing lens, and then the version 2 blew me away even further, I just have started to realize like, this is the golden ticket. And it's not like a workhorse. I guess for me, it sounds like a horse that's like, it's not a racehorse, right? It's like, well, this is going to like pull hay or something, and it's not really that great of a horse, but it will get the job done. And it's like, no, do not think of the 24 to 70 focal length. And again, it doesn't matter about the brand right now. Focal length, because what standard is saying, at least to me, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, is like, what it's saying is like, this is just, what's a good analogy? I'm
Average,
sure.
run of the mill.
We
equate it to like a kit lens that doesn't
Yes.
really offer anything of value.
Right. But most kit lenses, interesting, would be more like a 24 to 105,
Yeah.
which, or they have like too far of a range. And those are kind of like, they're kind of like an El Camino, like, you know, those old trucks that are half car, half truck. They're not either like a car, they're not a truck. You're like, and it's
That's
like,
the
you know
ultimate
what?
surfer car.
Yeah. They are old school, but I'm like, you want something that, at least for me with my zoom ranges, I don't like zoom ranges that cover too much ground. I want something to be what it is and to be it well. 24 to 70 does that. It's wide, but not too wide. Does that really, really well. Everything in between does really well. Up the 70, really well. Because otherwise you just get a little lazy of like, and for me, I want to engage and move and walk around and change my perspective. So I like that.
I agree. I think the versatility part is the main thing for me.
Yeah.
That you need to have range. It's one lens. You can carry around essentially one lens.
Yeah.
And it's obviously going to do better on the wider end. You're not going to go much. Most people on a full frame sensor are not going to need to go much wider than 24 for most things.
Yes.
The longer end of it is where you'd be like, okay, well, I can't really get crazy compression.
Yeah.
But I can, I mean, I'm using the version 1. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, that is it. Okay. Yeah, there's your up close shot. That's great.
I can still get separation. I mean, look at the quality.
Yeah, looks clean.
And
nice.
We have something in the foreground, something in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear me that great, but
I can hear you good.
That just kind of shows you how versatile you can get with this lens. Because I think a lot, when you went to the 85, I was really curious. I knew in my head.
You knew.
And I know you, I'm like, it's gonna be because I know you think that lens is magical, that focal length, that everything about it. And it is. And that's the one you lose, like you don't get the magic at the portrait end of this.
Yes.
But it's still not a slouch by any regard.
Oh man, no. And I think commercially, like if I had to do a job, an all full day job or multi-day job, like I think one of my last jobs was like 3 days in Costa Rica, and it was, you know, sunrise to midnight practically every day shooting. I did most of the job with a 24 to 70, if not, I did 90% of the job with that. I could have done the whole job with that. And that's crazy. We're like, you couldn't do the whole job with 85 or 35 or 24, you know, like you would be wanting something. So this one really gives you that. So let me jump back to slides. And then you know, I love my slides. But I love I'm like visual, I think visual learner. So I'm kind of a visual person. So on the 24 side, to your point, I actually don't remember exactly what focal length I had this one at. It wasn't 24. I'm probably more around 35, 40 or something. I'm zooming in a little bit to kind of crop in the scene, but it gives just a really nice, clean, natural look. This is shooting from a helicopter. This is at 24 and we're close to the island. And so you get a little bit of that distortion feeling. This is at 70, and this is in Italy, just from some steps looking down at the Ponte Vecchio. This is the same thing at 70 steps, and this is a different time of day, of course, but you're getting some of that. It gets you there. It's not going to like get you into, I don't know, like the very top of the steeple if you wanted that shot. Like there is a limitation of how close it's going to bring you. But for me, it really makes me feel like I'm there. So you feel this presence, like we're here in this moment, we're in front of this person. In this case, this image often I use as an illustration of front light and backlight. We're in this abandoned bank in Brooklyn, but this is front light. And then I walk, oh, actually I don't have the other image, but I walk around the other side and showed backlight. But you get this sense of like, we're there with this family. We're right there with the family. We're in the grass with them. And so for me, when I think about lenses and things, there's all like the laundry list of stuff, and you can look these up, and someone will say there's great image quality and there's all this, all the little details on that, the aperture is 2.8 or autofocus, whatever. All that stuff is important. But if it basically in Sony world, if it's G Master, it's absolutely amazing. So all those things are there. So that doesn't really sell me on the lens, because I'm like, I expect like top quality, so to speak. But what does sell me is thinking about other qualities. So these are them for me. And this is a little bit different. Like my gear review isn't super technical based. Like, yes, technical, top of the line, great. But then I want to know, is it something else? In this lens, it's authentic. It gives you a real natural feel. It feels very honest. So whenever I pull it out, I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. This is a moment. I'm present. I'm engaged. Versus when I pull out my 100 to 400 and I crank it up to 400, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really exciting. But in contrast, this lens is very honest. It's creative. It's kind of like, what else can I do? It's inviting in that way. It's kind, it's warm, it's thoughtful. It's a storytelling lens. So I think rather than standard, I think if you like telling stories, 24 to 70 focal length is the storytelling focal length, because it's like in cinematography, you can get the establishing shot, the medium shot, the up close shot. You can really move with your feet. You can work in unique ways. And then it's just really, really reliable. So what I mean is like, I don't know, like, let's say I'm super tired and I'm not like on my A game. I'm not composing well. I know the lens will help me out. Like I can't go wrong with this lens. It's so reliable in that way. And to illustrate that, this is one photo, and I've shared these before, but this has those feelings, right? It's honest, it's authentic, it's natural. We feel close to the scene, to what's happening. We don't see or feel any distortion, even though we're shooting this really wide, but the wideness isn't like silly or goofy or exciting. It just has this good natural vibe. Again, another up close photo. This is a family friend and her dog. I was doing some senior photos of her, and this was such a fun photo. I love this photo. And later their dog passed away, and she got her dog's name tattooed on her arm, and I printed this for her, and she has this in her college dorm. But it just has this really nice warm feel, and there's a closeness and intimacy to having a little bit of a wider lens like this, but it doesn't do so in a exaggerated or over the top way. So is this always a perfect lens? Obviously not. So let me just show two pictures. This is my backyard. So if I were to just step out of my little cabin here, this is what we would see. And this looks like today, actually. It's like very sunny out and beautiful. And we have these big oak trees. The one with the little tree house is over 150 years old. But what's interesting about this is at 24 with this lens, we're not seeing the full oak tree, right? Because our yard isn't that big. So I couldn't back up. I'm like backed up against the cabin here. So when you want like that really full look, this is my childhood backyard. So different oak tree, but I love oak trees. This is at 16, right? So this is a 16 to 35, another lens I love. But can you feel how the tree's arms are like wrapping around? It's like immersive. So when you want like immersive wideness, at least for me, I go to something wider than 24. So the 24 to 70 couldn't create this shot. It couldn't give this kind of like immersive wraparound surround sound kind of feeling. And this is a tree, but this is also really applicable to architecture, to smaller situations, or, when you're up close to things, you just want to get it all. In this case, I did obviously cut off some of the branches, but I climbed this tree as a kid, but I I wanted the branches to go to the edge, but I wanted to feel immersive. So it's not always perfect, right? There are other times when you want other lenses, but it is really versatile and really valuable. So I'm not saying this is the golden perfect lens, but I am saying it's valuable. So here's a little mini case study. These are some good friends and another oak tree in the background, but you can see in this case, I'm standing a little bit at a distance, shooting at 24, and I get the whole scene set. And I have, the f-stop modified a little bit so we can get the sun star in the background. Then I walk up to the family a little bit, take a couple steps, and I also zoom in. And now we get this nice up close moment with their daughter, Elena, and the two grandparents that came from Switzerland to visit. And just kind of a fun moment. And I probably have like flowers sticking out of my hair and stuff to try to get the kid to laugh. But it's just a nice, natural moment. And then this case, this was a little bit, I think, earlier actually than those two shots, but it's at 24 and I'm really, really close, like super close. Like she could reach out and almost touch the camera. So you see there is some slight distortion, but not like that 16 would give you, right? So you can still work really close when you want to. It's incredibly helpful when you have groups of people that you need to fit into a scene. And so in this case, bride and bridesmaids. It allows, this is where I'm a little bit different. I think that it does allow for some magic up close portraiture. This is an image unretouched. I would retouch out the little like dot by the guy's head, but this guy has the coolest eyes. Like I could not believe those are real. And he has this cool presence. And the photo right after this, he's laughing. So he's not always this serious, but I kind of wanted this serious, intense image. And this is up at the top of a mountain at a ski resort. There's a concrete wall. I had him walk into the shade. And then I said, hey, would you ever walk on top of the wall? So you get a sense on the look you can get at 70, very beautiful. And then he walked on top of the wall, and then I'm shooting this. Now I step back a little bit wider scene. And because I have this lens, I know I can do those two things. Couple more examples. This one is a family friend kid in his backyard. They lower their basketball hoop for him so he can slam dunk. It's pretty awesome. And so there he is, like, just jamming his backyard, and we're kind of goofing around. And then he and his brother, I grab this cooler. I'm like, you guys sit over here. And there's a cool brother shot, brothers. And I love this moment. So the fact again that I can do this with one lens, to me, is what's making it valuable. Yoga teacher out at the beach. This is commercial work for Ghirardelli chocolate. And this is like a nice kind of afternoon moment of them eating ice cream and stuff. But it has a real good kind of commercial feel, artist in his studio. This photo I threw in because I will do events, and sometimes events you're like, there's a table and people, and this is like this. We saw photos of her earlier out on the ocean in Costa Rica, but this is just with some of the guests at the retreat. And so this lens can do that. Looking at it here makes me think I want to crop it in a little bit, but always reviewing your own work. This is my daughter, Annie. Captured some senior portraits of her. So again, up close, it's magic. You can tell I'm really close. And this is her as well. These were for her high school graduation photos. And she's such a wonderful spirit, amazing person. But you get a sense of that. And part of these images, what I'm trying to show is like up close, right? The other one, a little bit more of a medium shot. And then the one on the right, it's left medium. Then on the one on the right, she's smaller in the frame. So we're looking at the size the subject is taking up in the frame. And this goes back to the storytelling that this lens affords, or this focal length affords, that kind of storytelling. And again, photographing friends or kids, commercial work. This is the largest chocolate wall. It's like running, dripping chocolate in North America. And there's like a glass wall, so you can't walk up to it. But because I was doing photography there, I was like, I brought someone up to the wall. It was so cool. It felt like Willy Wonka or something. But and then other commercial stuff, studio work. This is a great studio lens. And I love the feeling of these. Again, think back to those adjectives that I was talking about: authentic, kind, warm, natural, different studio environments. This is natural light studio now. The others were obviously using light, and just allowing to make these connections and to do so with kind of an inobtrusive lens. Olympic medalist on the left, yoga teacher on the right, out on a boat, New York in the background. This is a street portrait of an amazing photographer, local New Yorker. There's this tunnel with all these lights in it, and captured a neat moment of him. So street photography, but I always like portraits, so my street photography ends up looking like that. Portrait of a friend. And I'm just going to do a few more images and then we're going to talk, but you're getting the feel for what this allows us to do, is to have these different looks and to capture this stuff in some really unique ways. Let me stop sharing my screen and we can go back to talking. I have more images to show. What I want to show image wise is I have these galleries that I send to clients. I want to show a few of those, just to kind of show it without like just the one select, but to see like what does a whole shoot look like. So we'll do that in a second. So based on that, Derek, you're always so good at finding these little insights or ideas from what I'm saying. What's coming in for you?
I was thinking about how you're like, I'm not just going to show images. I'm going to talk about what. And after looking at the images, you could have just showed images.
I could have.
And no, but I think that's the power of great images. Is think about how often, we're marketed. Everything is being marketed to us.
Yeah.
I looked out the window today, so I live right off the Deegan, so I just highway traffic all day long, and you see trucks drive by, and it's like they have ads on them for that very reason. And it's like they're obviously trying to market something to us.
Right.
Is it true? No, it's marketing, marketing language.
Right.
Images don't lie. You can say, and not to discredit anything you've said in the past 28 minutes. It's all true and it's all relevant. But the images, when you look at the images, if I want to see what makes this lens, what makes it so valuable for you, the answer is in a slideshow of what you are able to do with it. And your work is magic. The 85, you call the 85 magic. Your work is magic. It always has this look to it, this polished commercial magazine feel to it that is so hard to accomplish. Like you could take a scene that I would photograph the same way and something would be missing. There's just something that you put in it. There's just some quality where I know it when I see it. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured out the secret sauce, but so all that just to say, I mean, you utilize this like a tool so well. And I think that's the important thing, is it really doesn't matter. We talk about gear all the time, and it's like does gear matter? Does gear not matter? Well, yeah, it matters out of one side of the mouth, but then out of the other side of the mouth, it doesn't matter. You make this particular focal length work so well. And I think showing that balance between tight up, further off, environmental, commercial, all the different uses, everything you just said backed all that up completely. But the images for me just speak so loud to what you can do with it. Was that good? Was that a good enough?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no,
of...
I mean, and I think that's helpful too, because part of it, all these things that we do, Derek, obviously we love to educate. They're not about us, but they're about helping other people enjoy this the way that we enjoy it, and catch the passion and magic and all of that. And that with lenses and stuff, that what tends to happen with marketing, and marketing's great, but they tend to focus on they'll zero in on something right here, and this is cool, and this is cool, and the size is cool, and it's this many ounces is cool, and this many aperture rings cool, and all this stuff, and the reviews kind of play to that too, because it is like a technological marvel. Camera gear is unbelievably good right now. Like the stuff that's coming out is just so good, right?
Yeah.
And so I search for analogies, but it's almost like instruments. It's like you buy a guitar now, it's like good. Like they figured out guitar building, and it used to be, let's say when I was a kid, if you bought a guitar at like Toys R Us, if you remember that store, it was not a good guitar. Like just don't buy one from there. Right. But now, but now it's almost like we're getting a little bit too much in, like, it's almost like, yes, this guitar has wood grain that's like 3 millimeters, like between the grain structure, and it's nano particle. And you're like, okay, great, but can you make music, right? And so that's what. And so we as photographers love gear. I love gear. I mean, it's so exciting. It's fun. It's interesting, newness. But what I want to say is like not to forget the music, right? To not just become so gear heady. Even with like, that's why I'm trying to branch this past like this particular lens. Because if I drop my camera in the water and someone else, I had to go borrow someone's, I borrowed yours and it wasn't the same, I wouldn't care. As long as I knew it was in my focal length, I could make my music. And that's really the trick in photography, is finding gear and lenses in particular that fit who you are and the music you want to make. I'm just going to play with this guitar thing for a little bit. Maybe you want an electric guitar that has fire on it because that's the kind of music you want to make. Great. Maybe it's a ukulele that has really natural finish. Great. And I'm going to equate that, different lenses. Electric guitars like a 70 to 200, ukuleles maybe more like a 50 or 35 or something. It doesn't have the same like volume. You have to work harder with certain lenses than others. Like electric guitar, you just like play a note. Like one of my friends told me first time I bought a 7200, he said, Chris, you could just photograph someone in a parking lot and it would look amazing. Like, and I tried that. I went out in the parking lot and I was like, oh, you're right. And it's like you just play a G major chord and electric guitar with distortion. And it's like, you feel like a rock star, right? But these other lenses, they invite you to work, or at least me, that's kind of the thing. The ones I like. But for all of us, it's finding ways to listen to the marketing, to your point, but then to not forget the imagery and to search out those photographers that we love and and not to like say, well, they shoot with this lens, I want to, but also maybe to try that, and that's what I did, right? That's like Annie Leibovitz. I was like, wow, she's doing this focal length. I kind of wrote it off as like standard workhorse. I was like, I don't want to be standard. I want to be cool. I want to be like, like the sexy primes. I want to be like, I'm like elitist, or something. And then I was like, ooh, wait a second. Maybe it's actually more powerful to make great music with something that is standard. And I would even then apply that to the primes too. If we fall trapped into thinking the prime's going to make the image, it won't. I don't know about you, but I like buy a new prime lens or something. I take a picture, it's bad. I'm like, how did that happen? I spent all this money.
It's supposed to be better. Do you think there's something to be said for the fact that across most of the range, you have to be more intentional with the way you're photographing when you're photographing with a wider, like the standard 24 to 70. The 85, you have compression. You're not getting, you photograph me with the 85. This wall is completely out. There's more, it's harder in a sense because you have more you have to worry about bokeh and out of focus things distracting. But I feel like one of the qualities that makes this so in your wheelhouse is you work with the environment you have very well. You see scenes, you play with what you have around you so well that this focal length is a natural fit for you because everything for you is intentional with the way it's lined up and with incorporating your surroundings, which you can't do that if you go too wide, you can't do it. And if you go too compressed, you can't do it because then, it's almost like it's working with a richer depth of field inherently that forces you to be more intentional. It forces you to pay more attention to composition. It forces you to really look at how you have images stacked and layered, what's in the foreground, what's in the background.
Right. And even for me, it invites me to be kind of calm and present. I like how you said that. What I mean by that, if I should put a 16 millimeter lens on and I did the same photo of my backyard, I would just be like, wow, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that, branches bending or buildings or, there's a big wow. Same thing, the 85. I mean, I love the 85. I'll do another webinar on that. But the wow isn't as much there. It's like, what is here? And then how does my camera height affect this? Like, because for me, the wider we go, the more camera height and camera distance from subject really matters. And so I'm like, I can't just be like, oh, it's better. I'm like, okay, I'm going wider. Now maybe I need to take a knee, like maybe the woman on the bench. I need to lower down so her head was above the horizon. I need to kind of find the right spacing, looking into the right space. So it allows me to slow down and to really be present. And what I think is, like, I love artisan craftspeople. So like ceramicists, painters, woodworkers. And I think I try to bring some of that into my photography, because what they do is they're not just like, maybe some are, but the most, let's go to woodworkers. I photographed this one woodworker, and he does carving. So he's just like, it's like he's very thoughtful with his carving. He's not just like slapping, and wow, big, bold moves. It's like, so yes. So I think to your answer, for me, it's fitting. And I think that's a good segue. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, go for it. I'm really interested to see this. And I think this is such a...
Yeah. Okay. And I have one tab here. I do provide coaching if people on my website, if anyone's interested. I just have had kind of 3 people finish my coaching program. So I have some space for that. And it's one-on-one. So if you want to learn how to do, if any of this is resonating, I work with people one-on-one to help them become more creative, capture better photos. Okay. So this is a set of photos from Ghirardelli. Maybe I'll just click into one of them, but you get a sense. I'll scroll through most of these, but you get a sense where I'm just like trying to figure out kind of the scene and how does the subject fit into the scene. And none of these necessarily are going to be like the A+ photos that I show in my presentation. But I'm just going to scroll a little bit through how you can see that I'm working with families eating ice cream. There's a lot of ice cream that was ate on the shoot. And let me just go down. People servers. This is Miss California. And I'm just going to go way down. I know this is almost probably blurry looking, but I want to try to get to, I'm going to go way down to the shoot. Okay, let's just go to, again, I have no idea if the client uses or any of these photos, but like, this is like people, like kids getting ice cream, and trying to show the enjoyment of it. I want to go down to the end. This is kind of some retail stuff, more kids showing, interacting with the products. You get the idea. Just like, to me, this is a lot of commercial photography for shoots. What I'm doing is I am capturing so many different moments and delivering the client a wide range of moments. And then out of, let's say there's 700 images, they're going to maybe use 30, and they're going to use them all over the place like mad. And so my job with this kind of a lens is to really give them variety. I'm going to go to a different one. This is a different client shoot. This is for a jewelry company, but in this case, you can see, I'm going to give stuff where I'm kind of showing the subject with, you can't see it maybe because it's on Zoom, it's small, but with the jewelry that she's wearing up in the mountains. And then I might also, because I always like doing up close stuff, maybe I'll do an up close portrait like this. So that's one client. This is different client. So this is engagement photos. And Derek, tell me if I'm going kind of too fast, too slow, but
this is good.
Okay. But this guy, he's a firefighter and he loves his truck. And so I was like, I got to get a picture of you guys with your truck. And he's like, oh yeah. And often I take pictures like this because you find what someone's interested in, you photograph them with it to build a connection. Are they going to use the picture with a truck on to send out? No. But I mean, he's going to love this. And so now he has buy-in. And so now I can ask him to do more goofy stuff, like go walk in the flower field. And, I can take some photos of them standing there together, excited to get married. I can do my up close portraiture, and I'll just keep scrolling here to kind of give you a sense. But this is a lot of like what I'm delivering clients. So we kind of saw one, which was commercial. Now we're seeing one that is a couple, and I'm shooting the whole thing with one lens, and I'll just keep scrolling here to get to just maybe a couple more photos. I loved this moment where they wanted to do stuff with surfboards. They're surfers walking across the street, so it's a kind of more lifestyle. And then there's this neat wall, and let me just see if there's any fun ones. Well, you get the idea, like kind of more iconic at a distance kind of photos. So this is obviously at 24, right? And then some of the other ones, oh, these were fun too with the palm tree. But some of the other ones are going to be more up close. So this one it's probably at 70, right? And I'm capturing a little bit more of their personality. Let's go to another one. This is an artist who makes sculptures out of skateboards. So I have some stuff with her in her workshop, her with her art. And then we saw one of these. There's one that I kind of like this one. I like her vibe in it, and just her in front of a white wall. So again, range. Let's do one more. This is for a local yoga studio, and they need some photos for their teachers that are doing a teacher training class. And so I'm capturing images of the group, and I'm kind of working at different distances. This is my daughter, Annie, that we saw earlier. And I showed a few of those pictures, but wanting to scroll through the whole shoot, basically I was like, Annie, we got to go take pictures. And so we went down 20 minutes. We take all these pictures. We're just goofing around. We have her skateboarding. We have her standing, sitting. There was that up close one we saw, which will kind of be up here somewhere. Or maybe, I think it was that one where it's a nice up close picture of her eyes, but also just some of her down at our local beach that our family goes to all the time. Two more galleries and then we'll talk. But this is when I talked about kind of band photos. This is one they've used a lot. And this one I'm getting more depth of field by having the guys stand further away than the lead singer, capturing images of them on location. And I'm obviously processing these to try to match and fit their style. So I just want to show kind of that style, but then also they've used this photo a ton, down on the beach, kind of silhouette. And sometimes less is more with bands. You kind of want to know who it is, but not totally. So this lens gives me that. And then last little one, in this case, I wanted to show this one because they redesigned the store. Gary Deli is one of my big clients. And so I took an architectural kind of shot for them and some others, which showed the store, to give a sense. They have this G from the original sign. And then to give, let me just see where it is, to kind of get the full G in it standing on the stairs. So it gives me wide enough. This is really hard to do. Like you couldn't do this with a mobile phone, I guess, unless you went to like a 0.5, but this gives the full thing there. And just some of those elements, but also some little moments in the store and people enjoying it. So jumping back through this, like, why the heck am I showing all these? One is we saw a big, like, full day commercial shoot with a lot of different things. Another one, we saw a smaller client, jewelry, and looking at different outdoor on location stuff. Our engaged couple out on location, our artist in her studio, yoga teachers in studio, my daughter, a band, and allowing us to really create so many different moods. And so I'll stop sharing there, but I just kind of wanted to show a free-for-all quick skim of things, because Well, there's two reasons. One is I've started to do this more at my workshops, and I realize people really appreciate it when they get to see not just the hero images and see that there's all the kind of like there's a lot of work to get there, right? And then what I do with my clients is I show more than necessary to give them the ability to select, and they tend to really like that. I also will share with them a smaller gallery. But so I kind of wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit and share that with everyone watching, to show that this lens isn't just a singular lens where you're like, oh, one and done, but you can really work these different scenes. Like with the band, if we went back to it, we would see like, oh, I was working these old greenhouses and I was doing this, and then I did up close individuals of each of them, and then I had them walk to the beach, and we did some train track stuff, and then we did some beach, and then we did some sunburst, and then we did some more. I went on the other side of them, but this, all I have is like one camera and a lens. And sometimes when I do my work, people are like, is that all you have? And I have a big backpack with all the rest of the gear, but I'm like, yeah, that's all we need. And wanted to show that.
You're not human, man. I'm looking at these images that are supposed to be like your outtakes, and they're better than my my final images. Um, is it true for you that because again, you've talked about it earlier, how everyone gravitates towards primes, and it's like, all right, well, when you start photography, you start on zooms because you normally start on a kit lens, but
Yes,
then
yes.
professional photographers only use primes, and that's what you're kind of pumped into your head, and it's what you're fed, and then you hit a certain point where it's like you want to get back to the process of creating, and what makes it easy to create is versatility again,
Yeah.
but also ease, not having to change bodies, not having to change lenses. I think every time I've done a shoot where I bring multiple bodies and I spend too much time changing lenses,
Yeah.
I don't allow myself enough time. You have to build chemistry with every subject. You
Right.
also have to build chemistry with every setup you have with that subject. You have to allow yourself to see. And that's what I think was so useful for me, to look through your process. It was way more about the images leading up to the final image than it was about the final image, and to see how you work and how you maneuver. So
Yes.
does that ring true for you, especially in regards to using this lens, that it allows you to stay in the zone, and rather than changing a lens, you can just, okay, I could just adjust in a little bit, because at a certain point you have to throw away, well, move your feet, and no, well, that's not always true. That changes your position, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is better to just be able to have the versatility rather than being locked into one mindset of one focal length.
Yeah. What and where I'll pick up on that, and I'm curious if this resonates with you, is I have a big Peak Design backpack, and it's pretty loaded. I like, let's say that one shoot out, the commercial shoot I was showing, I have three bodies. I probably have six lenses, and then I also have a bag with lighting gear and modifiers. So I have a lot of gear available to me, so to speak, on a shoot like that. Like I have like a whole camera store with me. But what I learned from doing workshops and also teaching at a college level is that I would see my workshop attendees who have a lot of gear, and they would create worse work, because they were always thinking like, well, maybe I should change, or what if I do that, or if only I use this lens, because they kind of could do that, they would.
Mm.
And this will be a little goofy analogy, but I lived in Spain for a year of my life, which was amazing. And I remember coming back after living there, and I went into a grocery store down the bread aisle. And in Spain, the little market where I lived, it had like one kind of bread. You go and pick your bread. And I remember coming back to the States, and I was like, oh my gosh, there are 40 kinds of bread. Like, I didn't even know what kind of bread I should choose. I didn't even know I could choose as many kinds of, I was like, this one or that one. I took all this time, and like, and I guess what I'm playing with this comparison here a little bit, that regardless of what gear we have or how we shoot, I think really settling into what we have in the moment, which is what I was hearing you say, like, yeah, maybe move your feet, maybe not, maybe zoom in, maybe not, but flow, connect, and not have this feeling like, um, well, oh my gosh, I should go change this. And I've done that. I'm like, I should do it with 16. And then I put the 16 on. I'm like, oh no, I should do the 70/20. Oh no, I shouldn't do that. And then
Yeah.
and I'm like, and then meanwhile, my subjects, I do a lot of people work. My subjects like just bored out of their mind,
Yeah.
right?
They're cooling down. They're
Cooling down. Yeah.
they're coming out of their zone. It's different if you're out on the street. Like
Yeah.
I'm out on the street and I see something. Wow, I'm seeing silhouettes cross the avenues
Yeah.
30 blocks down. And I'm like, ooh, I'd be really cool to photograph this from like 300 millimeters.
Right.
Different. The moment's not going to change. The whole energy, the connection,
Right.
the vibe of the moment isn't going to change. But you hit a great point there. All this, you're getting yourself out of the zone. You're getting your subject. They're just sitting there. You spend all this time building comfort and developing a flow. And I think that's what we're getting to with
Yeah.
having that versatility. It's really about having a range without having to switch gear. Because again, people will say, well, just have a second body. Sometimes one body. It's the small little nuances that are the difference between really staying in the moment. Because even going to another body, it's like, it's not, your setting. You might have to adjust your settings it's really just
Yeah.
easier to be there and zoom and do a little bit of that, then change the whole flow of, I like that word flow you used, because that
Yeah.
really is what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And in commercial setting, like let's say some of those shoots, maybe there's 30 or 40 people on set and I have someone helping with lights. And let's say with the ice cream, they're only photographable for a few minutes because then they melt and they have to swap out a new one. So there's just like a lot of moving parts and the weather's changing, the light's coming through the window or it's not or whatever. And so I think part of our job as photographers is to kind of be this like this even keel in a way, at least for me. Like let's say there's one photo I really like, this couple and they're eating ice cream and it's backlit and it's in San Francisco and I feel like it captured the feeling we were trying to achieve. And they weren't feeling anything. They were just like, okay, we'll do another one. Seriously, I have to do another Sunday. I'm like, so I have to like create this moment. I have to help them create it. Or same thing, the engaged couple, they're like, pull up in the truck. Can I get a photo with the truck? And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this will be amazing. And then the guy's like, and I'm asking him about his truck and the size of his tires and the racket, and he's like, so our job is to kind of create this moment and this magic, or the family, same kind of thing. I'm like, I'm going to go walk away. You guys sit here, enjoy each other. And I step back, go to 24, I get the whole scene. Cause I knew that, because they came from Switzerland, I knew we needed some California golden hills and oak trees, and we needed some of that, not just up close, like where in the world are you? So my job's that. Then when I come close, then I'm trying to create the moment. But if I'm setting my camera bag down, opening, swapping, changing, the little kid, Alina, she's just crying or something by that point. So yeah, flow is really important, and focal lengths that allow us to get in the flow. So I think what I try to do with my students and workshops and things is not say you need to buy this lens or that, because there's no right answer, right? We're all different. It's like musical instruments, but we do need to connect to our gear. And the mistake is to buy too many lenses too quickly, and then we don't really understand them. And we have this whole suite of lenses, but we don't really intimately know them. And I don't mean intimately know them like the gear things, how sharp it is, the focus hold button, blah, 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 all that stuff. But I mean, like, what's the feeling of 24? Like, even here, it would be
I
interesting.
like this.
24 is like right here. Well, you did it for us, actually. And then you went here, this was 70. So what's this feeling? Because every lens has an angle of view, which allows us to see a certain part of the world. 16 is like this, it's like a 180-degree view. And then also, what's the feeling of it from my distance to my subject, my camera height? How close can I get? When does this lens fall apart? For example, I shows with the oak trees in the backyard. It's just not wide enough in this kind of a scene. So maybe it's falling apart there. Or if I have a group photo, let's say it's a wedding party, it's 10 or 15 people, I can shoot that at 24. But then I'll do these photos at weddings where they have everybody. It's like 70 people or something, you know, it's all the families flown overseas. I don't know how many people. It's like, you know, and like I've done those photos. I've been that guy, like I stand on a ladder and like take them. Like you can't do that at 24. You're gonna get half the group.
No.
But just really starting to know that, so that when I'm fumbling for the lens, I'm not like, I have no question like, oh, this size group, this is a good focal length, or oh, I want to do my up close kind of portraiture, this is the thing. Or remember there was a guy with a really cool eyes, I want to do an up close portrait, an open shade in front of the concrete wall, then up on top of the wall. Before I even talk to him, I put on the lens knowing I'm going to do two things, and not doing one, fumbling, doing another, right? So having that intimate knowledge of it, and also knowing energetically what these focal lengths afford us to do. Meaning for me, it's natural, authentic, it's kind, it's curious. There's nothing like, if we think back of all the images we saw today, there's nothing like, apart from that one wedding photo, that one I think is actually really good, like mic drop photo, but there's nothing jaw-droppingly like, oh my gosh, like this photographically, this is the, you know, like a, and I say it's all positive, you know, I think my work's great, but it's not like this is the award-winning photo of the year or something, but they're all really strong. And so it allows you this breadth and depth of it, of strength. So, man, I talk sometimes, feel like I talk too much, but
No,
I
we're
get
here
all
to
excited
listen.
about it.
I tell you, every time you come on, it's like I look forward to these. It always comes at the right time. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
a Monday. It's a Monday of all Mondays. So I'm like, this is perfect. We couldn't have scripted this any better. And that's what we're here for, man. We're here
Yeah.
to hear, you know, I think in very much the same way as we're talking about the lenses and how we talk about gear, it's you, your experience is what makes this lens special. It's what you do with it, but it's also your outlook. And I think that's where we get away from the technical aspect. This is where we get away from the
Yeah.
marketing images, is where we get into your approach. How many
Yes.
people can sit here and listen to these and they don't even have to tune in, watch. They can
Right.
listen, have it on in the background, treat it like a podcast, and just hearing your approach to photography and the way that you address things probably provides just as many people help as the people who are watching and looking at the images. And I think that's what's so important, is your words and your experience and your approach to photography. I think people underestimate approach. We focus so much on a style, but I think the approach is a
Yeah.
lot of what makes the
And the
style what it
process, I
is.
think that's, yeah, the
Yeah.
approach, the process. And maybe to that point, there's a new Sony lens, a 24 to 50. I think that's what it is. I do not have it yet. It
Mm.
hasn't come out. But that lens pairs very well with a smaller camera body, the Sony A7C. So where I'm going back to that made me think of with process, that I'm almost certain that lens is going to be glued onto my smaller camera body. And the reason I mention that is I have some people I coach who are older, who the weight of their camera really matters. And so them finding the right camera body size and lens combo is really important. So while this, and you're so good at drawing all these things out, and that's what I think the value of this is, this conversation we're having, but is finding what's right for us at our stage in life. So for example, I'm just going to exaggerate, but I showed one photo. I think I had a 600 millimeter lens on, and I'm standing on a wall in one of my photos when I was going through showing stuff of myself. That lens is right for the certain kind of person, one who can handle a lens that big, right? I don't own that lens, but I was using, I was like, wow, this is a beast. And you can only shoot with it for so long, you know, I mean, and so, but yet if someone's older, like I have one coaching client who is going on a safari to, you know, safari in Africa. And so it was like, she really wanted to think about, I don't want a lens and gear that's so heavy that I'm going to be so tired and my wrist is going to hurt so bad that I'm not going to actually enjoy photography. So we kind of found a way to make her with the right gear, focal length, the camera body. And so I think all these conversations and hearing other people talk, the takeaway should always be, okay, that's them. Great. What about me? And that's what I hope kind of our listening audience really is tuning into is we don't need another person to photograph someone eating an ice cream sundae. That's been done or whatever. But what we need are people who have tapped into who they are. They're paying attention to the marketing because it's exciting, all the technical qualities because it's really important. But then kind of ask like, what music do I want to make? What's the song I want to sing? And then how does in this conversation, how does focal length afford different ways to do that? And to think about it with our own subject matter and our own things of interest. And by doing that, that's where, at least with my students, I've seen them just like fireworks, they just skyrocket with their success. Where they fail is when they buy a really expensive lens and they're just shooting stupid stuff with it. And I'm like, okay, you're like you think that because the lens was expensive, because it's top of the line, because it has all these reviews, you're going to get good photography. You're not going to get good photography. You have to photograph something that matters to you. You have to have a voice. You have to have a vision. You have to have that flow. You have to have that connection. And you have to bring this lens into that world, like maybe, because I mentioned puppies, Derek. We have 10 puppies.
Yeah. How did we do this whole hour without talking about puppies?
I know. I did a Zoom the other day where in front of all the puppies, it was really fun, but also really distracting. But with puppies, it's like bringing a puppy home and integrating it into your life. I'm just going to play, so it's like, this is fun, magical thing. But when a family's going to adopt these puppies from us, they really have to figure out how does it fit into their life? Are they a water family? They go to the beach a lot? Do they go hiking a lot, or whatever it is? The puppy is the puppy, it's itself, but the integration is the important thing. And so I think that is too often overlooked in gear conversations, and really tuning into that from a focal length perspective, not from, the cost or all those things, but just focal length, just purely angle of view. What can you do with it? Are you a storyteller? What kind of storyteller are you? Where I have some colleagues who are like, well, I only like, let's say, stories where it's really up close. They love macro stuff. I'm like, okay, great. This lens, you don't need that lens, if you're just a macro photographer. Or if they like, like the more 16-35 or this wide 12 millimeter lens, really ultra wide, then okay, yeah, maybe you go there.
Every time we have a conversation, it's like, there's so many things I'm over here. I'm like, all right, we got to bring this up next time. I could have gone another hour on this. I could have gone on a tangent here.
Yeah.
So much. I will say to everybody out there, we have some stuff. We're working on getting some stuff up on the website. We do have some more stuff with Chris planned coming up. I know it's been a while. We missed having him on the platform here, but we have some more stuff. I'm working on getting it up on the website. So if you do want to get more of Chris's take on photography, life, Zen, everything in general, portraits, head over to our YouTube page. Just look up the B&H event space. We have plenty of Chris Orwig on there. But Chris, always great to have you on, man.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And one of the ones that coming up too will be more conversational. So we'll get some more, if you have questions and you want to interact, we can do that. Some of our times we do a little more presentational like this, other ones a little more conversational, and give us feedback. Let us know what you want. We're really here to serve you. And I think Derek and I both really feel so many people have helped us in our photo journeys. It's a fun way to continue, to kind of give back and learn and grow and be in this together. So this is so great, Derek. I appreciate the time. And it was really fun for me to reflect on my focal lengths that I use, and to surprise myself. I would go through my Lightroom catalogs and I would filter by certain thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize how much I use this. And that's where the title came from. And maybe one of the takeaways is just to look at your own work, and look at like, okay, yeah, what am I using and not using? And sometimes that can, I don't know, highlight some awareness or some insight. So.
Totally. He had an 85 millimeter presentation planned, and he had to change it at the last minute when he read his catalog.
Totally. I was like, oh my gosh, so fun.
I love it, man. Chris, always great to have you on. Such great vibes. A huge thank you, of course, to Sony for hosting this event, and to all of our viewers out there tuning in. Again, we love to see the interaction. So we'll have some more interaction for you guys coming. and we do hope you get involved. But that is all we have for now. Another edition of the B&H Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.